Are you stuck at 1000 elo and feeling frustrated with your progress? Don't worry, you're not alone. In this video, we'll be sharing 10 essential chess tips that will help you break through that 1000 elo barrier and start improving your game. Whether you're a new player or you have been playing chess for a while, these tips will help you up your game to the next level and climb the chess ladder. So let's dive right in. The first tip we're going to share is to control the center. Controlling the center is a key principle in chess, and the center squares include e4, e5, d4, and d5. The central squares are the most important because a strong presence in the center will allow your pieces more mobility and create opportunities for you to attack the enemy. In the opening, try to occupy these squares with your pawns and place your pieces in positions that influence the center as well. A move like pawn to e4 is way better than a move like pawn to a4. This is because pawn to e4 controls two central squares at a time, whereas a pawn like a4 only controls one square on b5, which is not as important as the center square. Also, pawn to e4 frees up the bishop and the queen to develop on the next move as well, which brings us to tip number 2, and that is to develop your pieces efficiently. Rapid piece development is crucial to a successful opening. Start by developing our minor pieces first, which are the knights and the bishops, towards the center of the board. The general rule to remember is to move each piece only once in the opening to avoid wasting time. For instance, consider these opening moves. Both sides has developed their knights and the bishops to active squares and putting pressure and controlling the center as well. Also, this sets up for castling on the next move, which would be the next tip that we'll be discussing. Tip number 3, king safety. Protecting your king is the most important rule in chess. One way to ensure king safety is through proper castling, which helps to shield your king from immediate threats and connect your rooks. By castling and protecting our king, we are shielding our king behind a wall of pawns, and we also have pieces surrounding our king to protect it from future potential dangers and attacks from the opponent. The reason why this tip is the most important because our king is the most valuable piece on the board, and if it were to be captured or checkmated, we will lose the game, which is why always remember to prioritize king safety first over everything else. You can also decide to castle queenside in certain openings and variations as well. Depending on the position, sometimes we might choose to castle queenside instead of the more common castling on the kingside. But before we continue with the other tips, I want to take a moment to ask for your support. If you are finding this video helpful and want to see more chess content like this, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. By doing so, you stay up to date with all our latest chess content. Let's move on to tip number 4, which is don't move the same piece multiple times in the opening. Moving the same piece multiple times can lead to a disadvantage as it wastes time and delays the development of your other pieces. In most cases, it's better to focus on developing all your remaining pieces before moving any of them the second time. Of course, there are few exceptions to this rule, especially when your opponent is attacking your piece and you're forced to defend it by moving somewhere else. For example, in this position, White just developed his bishop to c4 in the previous move, so he wouldn't be looking to play a move like bishop here or bishop here, as that would violate tip number 4, which is not to move our piece twice. And of course, if Black plays a move like knight here, attacking the bishop, now it is okay to retreat our bishop backwards as our piece was under attack. So sometimes it's okay to move a piece for a second time or more if it's under attack, but generally try to finish developing all your other pieces first. Tip number 5, avoid unnecessary pawn moves. Remember, pawns can never go back once they are moved forward, so avoid excessive pawn moves that can create weaknesses in your position and hinder your overall development. For example, in a position like this, Black plays his knight up, and it might be very tempting to play a move like pawn to e5, attacking the knight immediately. However, in this position, it would be a mistake as Black has this nice check over here, queen to a5, attacking our king, and also attacking the pawn at the same time. There's no way for us to block the check and protect the pawn. So if we play a move like this, blocking the check, now black can just capture our pawn and we'll be 1 pawn down already. So keep in mind that pawn moves can be a double-edged sword, and while they can help you gain space and control certain squares or attack your opponent's pieces, they can also leave you exposed if you're not careful, because pawns can never move backwards. Moving on to the next tip is, do not bring out the queen early. Bringing out your queen too early in the game can be a dangerous mistake. This is because the queen is a valuable piece, and exposing it too early in the game can lead to unnecessary attacks on the queen and a loss of tempos if you're forced to move the queen to defend it multiple times. So for example, in this position, if black were to play a move like queen to f6, this would be quite a bad move because now white has a few options to attack the queen. White can play knight here to d5, attacking the queen, and also threatening to capture on c7 to give check and forking the rook at the same time. White can also play a move like bishop to g5, the knight protects the bishop, and the bishop attacks the queen. White gets to develop his bishop and at the same time attack the black queen. Black is forced to move his queen, and that would violate tip number 4 as well, which is not to move the same piece multiple times in the opening. Tip number 7 is rook placement and connecting the rooks. Once both rooks are developed and connected like this, they provide strong support for each other and they can be used to dominate the open files. So an example position implementing tip 1 to 7 would look something like this. The knights and bishops have been developed first, and they control key squares in the center. The pawns are placed perfectly nicely in the center, controlling key squares as well. The king is safely tucked in the corner, shielded behind his pawns and the pieces. All of white's pieces here has moved only once, and the queen has developed one move as well, and not too early into the game. So for example, if the e pawns here were to be traded, white can even double up his rooks along the e file to put tremendous pressure along this open e file. Moving on to tip number 8 is avoid doubling your pawns. Doubled pawns or 2 pawns on the same file can create weaknesses in your pawn structure. While there are certain specific situations where doubled pawns are acceptable or even advantageous, it's generally best to avoid them if possible. So for example, in this position, black is threatening to capture our knight on c3 with check, forcing us to capture back with the b pawn, creating the double pawn here on the c file. So if we were to play a move like bishop here, black can just capture, we have to capture back, and now our double pawns on the c file are quite weak because black can easily attack our pawns, and he can also utilize the c file, the open c file later, to attack our weakened pawns. So instead of allowing black to capture our knight, we can play a move like bishop here to d2 to protect our knight on c3, because after capture, we can capture back with the bishop, avoiding the double pawns. Tip number 9, activate your king in the endgame. In the endgame, when there are fewer pieces left on the board, it's crucial to activate your king and use it as an attacking piece. During the middle game, the king has to be safely protected because there are so many enemy pieces that can potentially threaten the king. However, as the game progresses into the endgame, the king can become a powerful weapon. So for example, in this king and pawn endgame, an active king can attack the opponent's pawns and also support its own pawns and defend it. So remember, as the endgame approaches, your king transitions from a vulnerable target to an essential attacking piece. So don't miss the opportunity to involve the king in your plans. And last but not least, the final tip is to analyze your own games. Analyzing your own games is one of the most effective ways to improve your chess skills, because by examining your moves and identifying your mistakes, you'll gain a deeper understanding of your strengths and weaknesses and learn how to avoid similar errors in the future. After every game you have played, take some time to review the game. Look for critical moments where you or your opponent made a significant blunder. Try to understand the reasons behind the mistakes and consider alternative moves that could have led to a better outcome for the game. You can also use engines to analyze your games, which can provide valuable insights and suggestions for improvement. Regularly analyzing your games will help you recognize patterns in your play and guide your growth as a chess player. Thanks for tuning in to our video on 10 essential chess tips to escape 1000 ELO. We hope that these tips will help you improve your game and reach new heights. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more chess content. In the comments below, let us know which was your favorite tip or which tip did you found the most useful. Thanks for watching, and we see you in the next video.